Okay. Oh, awesome.
Woo!
So, good morning, everyone. Hopefully that got you all pumped up and ready to talk about some cool stuff today.
Did you guys get pumped up? Come on.
Woo!
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
So, my name is Jerome Holman. I'm a program manager on the team that actually has worked on building the app platform that makes building HTML5 Metro-style apps possible. So what we're going to do today is actually talk to you about how do you take what you know and love about building websites today and bring that into this new world of Metro-style applications. And one of the things that I've also worked on at Microsoft is working with the interns and with FTEs around Microsoft, doing boot camps to actually train and get people ready to build Metro-style apps in HTML5. So hopefully you can take some of this and really feel supercharged to go and build some great apps. So on the agenda, we're going to talk about how do you take the things that you know, the skills that you have, and translate those into building great Metro-style apps. We're going to talk about touch. We're going to talk about what does it actually mean to actually have a great Metro-style app. And we'll be looking at how to actually take those assets and things that you're familiar with and translate them into this new world. And hopefully you'll take away an understanding of how to feel kind of supercharged and accelerated to build these style of apps.
Now, we're also going to take Q&A later on, right?
Yes. So great point, Ray. So at the end, we have a fully packed agenda. We're going to be writing a lot of code. So we're going to do Q&A afterwards, a little bit down here, but mainly on the expo floor for about an hour right after this. So please come down there with your questions. So before we get into this, you probably, again, I saw this sign and it's so relevant, right? It's been the fire hose, right? There's so much information that we've been kind of throwing at you through the conference. But what we'd like to kind of answer in terms of questions that you may have is that all of the things that you know and love about the web are relevant to building these types of applications. If you're sitting there and you're already kind of a Jedi when it comes to the web, you already know CSS3, you have those slick animations on your website, you're doing really cool animations in Canvas, you have those battle scars of working with the DOM API, we just want to let you know that yes, everything that you know, all the skills that you have when building websites is going to apply to this world when building Metro-style apps in HTML5. The other thing is you may be sitting there with a great idea for an app. You may have a service that you love. You already know the REST API to connect to Flickr or to Bing. And we just want to, again, confirm that, yes, all those things that you know and love, those services are available to you when building great Metro-style apps. And lastly, you have libraries. You have JavaScript that you've already been writing for this platform. And you may love things. jQuery, we love jQuery. And you may be asking, hey, can I use that stuff when building Metro-style applications in HTML5 and JavaScript?
Oh, heck yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
heck yeah. All that stuff is available to building great applications on this new platform. So when we thought about how to actually get this point across and how to actually go through this today, we thought, hey, what better way to demonstrate this than to have someone who actually lives, breathes, eats, and sleeps web development to actually come in here and build an app for you. And that's what we've done. Ray Bango is actually here. He's a member of jQuery, the jQuery committee. He actually worked at Mozilla, and now he's actually a program manager at Microsoft, showing people how to embrace web standards and move the standard web forward. So Ray is actually going to be building you a full taking a website and building a full Metro-style application today. So again, no further ado, Ray Bango.
How do I live up to an intro like that? It's like, God, you just put me on the spot. That's horrible. So guys, for the last 10 years, I've worked really hard to refine my web development skills. And I've done a lot of the stuff that you guys have probably done. Who are web developers in the crowd? All right, great. And
awesome.
So we're probably, you guys are familiar with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You probably use jQuery. And to me at least, JavaScript and especially jQuery, since I'm part of the jQuery project team, is an extremely powerful enabling technology. So when Jerome came to me and said, hey, Ray, listen, we got this great presentation, and let's show developers how we can leverage these web skills and build awesome Metro-style applications, I had to be all over this. This is my world. This is what I do day in and day out. I'm like you guys. I'm building awesome websites. Now I want to learn how I can take these skills and make awesome Metro-style applications. So I think it was just like this whole synergy, like, woo, type of thing going on, and it was just, I had to jump all over it. So I think the best way to do this is to actually show the differences between what a typical website would look like and what a Metro-style application would look like. So what we're hoping is that at the end of this presentation, you're going to have the information and the tools you need to actually get going on this. So let me kick this off a little bit by showing two different scenarios. All right, give me a second while this kind of warms up. All right, so this is a great site. This is a great example of a typical website. This is a site that the IE team built when we launched Internet Explorer 9. It's called Flickr Postcards. It has all the typical patterns you'd expect in a website. You're going to have a search bar. You're going to have form elements that do something for configuration on the site. And it's also a great example of CSS 2D transforms. So if I hover with my mouse over each thumbnail, you'll see it kind of spits out and it does a little manipulation. This is really cool. Now, the thing that I want to point out, though, is that there's some things that are kind of missing in terms of being app-like. If I take my finger and I scroll over it, well, there's no touch.
Yeah, and this is a touch-first platform.
It's a touch-first platform. Windows 8 is a touch-first platform, and that's kind of really important, I think. And then the next thing I want to show you is that, hey, listen, if I scroll up, well, those configuration options at the very top, we've lost them. The user now it's not having the right user experience. They're kind of lost in what they can do with it. And then the last thing I want to point out is this search functionality. This is typical search for a website, and it makes total sense within the context of a website. But it doesn't really promote discoverability past your website. It's not deeply integrated into the platform. And so how are other users going to find your information unless you got some really good SEO mojo going on, all right? So if I switch over, though, and let me bring up a Metro-style application. Now, this is the same exact application. If you look at it, look, I'll go over. I still got my CSS3 2D transforms. I'm using the full entire real estate. I have every pixel dedicated to my app. This is really cool. You got the users just completely immersed in your application. I love this, all right? Now, the cool thing is if I take my finger and I swipe over it, whoa.
Nice.
Very different. Again, touch first. This is awesome. My users are getting the right experience. And then let me do one last thing. Those configuration options that we talked about, those form elements at the very top that kind of got lost when you scrolled up and down.
Sure did.
Well, in the Windows 8 platform, you don't have to worry about that because I can bring up the app bar and all my options are there. And they're always there. They're always immediately available to the user. They're not going to get lost. The user is going to come to expect to have this nice centralized UX that's going to give them the configuration options. And to show you this is not smoke and mirrors, if I click here, yep, messy layout. I can go large, small. So this is looking good.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty much a port of the IE Flickr Postcards website. So far, so good. So let me switch over. Come on. There we go. OK, cool. So what we've done here is we've shown you that yes, you can bring some of your web your web assets over. You have your web development skills, which are definitely applicable. But there's some things that you need to kind of think about when you're starting to build Metro-style applications. It's not just a matter of saying, let's just take code and bring it over. You gotta do some homework here. So, Jerome, can you jump in and show them some of the things they need to worry about with Metro-style applications?
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, I'd love to. And before we actually dive into thinking about the things that you actually know and can use in this platform, let's kind of zoom out for a second and talk about what makes a great Metro-style app. And again, hopefully you've seen in some of the keynote demos and some of the big talks that we actually had on day one that there's a lot to building a great Metro-style application. Users are going to expect that they have that elegant typography, that when they touch your application, it feels alive underneath their fingers and has that motion and that animation that we think users are going to expect when using a Metro-style app. The other thing is, you heard from Malesh that Metro-style apps should be fast, fluid, and furious. And that's
wait. You doing a little Vin Diesel here? You're like,
yeah.
You're fast and furious?
I know, sorry. It's these Metro Fabulous shirts that kind of got me going here.
I'll call you Vin from now on. Yeah.
Thanks. But really, it is an important point. Users are going to expect that your app feels great on this platform. And you have to think about updating things and doing things a little bit differently than what you may have done on your website for that. You've also seen great contracts. And contracts let you integrate deeply with your application into Windows and really have users discover your app in all new places and become a part of their experience across the platform. Again, I don't want to talk about these things too much because you're going to see these in our demo, but really what we're trying to say here is that you want to embrace this platform because if you do, users will love and they'll start to expect certain things from your apps. Now, there's a point of view that we're hopefully talking about here and a perspective that we hope you will adopt, and that's that building an app is different from building a website. And there's a great analogy to kind of think about this. Let's say that we were actually all the creators of an awesome hit TV series. It was made for a 30-minute show over a season, And we were told, hey, guess what? We want you to take the clips from that TV show, all the content, all the footage, and don't alter it, but stitch that stuff together to make a movie. And, you know, there's some pretty horrible movies that have actually tried to do that, Ray. I'm sure that you can think of some.
Oh, yeah. I watch plenty of TV, and yeah.
So what you'd rather do is you'd rather actually take the characters, take the plot, take the essence and the magic of that TV show, and extract it from that universe that you've created, and then make a completely new thing. You'd make a completely new movie with a new plot set to actually work in a 2-hour format, and you'd make something great in the universe of the great TV show that we have. And that's really what we're talking about. You all are web developers. You have great websites. And what we really are trying to talk about here is taking the assets, taking the things that make sense, thinking about what would be a great app in your universe, and actually translating that into this new platform. And that's going to take some work, but we think users will be delighted by the things that you go and create. So the great thing, too, is that you can actually use what you already know. And what does that mean? Well, you've seen from some of the other sessions that we have doubled down our investment across Microsoft and really implementing the web standards that web developers want. And why have we done that? We've done that because we wanted to give you a rich set of tools to build great applications. We now have things like better CSS3 implementation, actually having web workers. How cool is that? So you can do asynchronous JavaScript. Things like geolocation and the file API, Blob, all these standards are being implemented because we wanted to give you a rich set of tools for building great applications. The other thing is, there's some things that actually become a little easier. There's some things that are simpler that you don't have to contend with. One of these things is you have the same DOM API, the same consistent web platform on every single machine that runs your application. That means you're not dealing with feature detection and fallback logic and, oh, let me actually do some least common denominator programming to make this appear great on everyone's machine, because there's no nuances. You know what web platform you're going to have on the machine when your application runs. That means you can take advantage of Canvas. You can take advantage of web workers and these features because you know they're going to be there when your application runs. We also have embraced the standards web, and it's a plug-in-free environment. And what we mean by that is we've tried to simplify some of the things that you have to worry about, different performance characteristics, different privacy and security considerations when you're developing your app. We've tried to just take that out of the equation so that you can just focus on building a great experience. Also, we've given you a single window. That means you have 100% of the pixels on the screen to create your experience. You don't have to have a concern about your users hitting refresh like 20 times, closing your tab, hitting back and forward, and having to manage all those crazy things, because you own every pixel on the screen. And that's really powerful. So another piece that you've heard about is we've provided great libraries too. The Windows library for JavaScript is actually there to give you a lot of features and make a lot of things easier in this new world. And most importantly, we've given you access to the Windows runtime. And again, I know it's a fire hose. It's probably not all kind of been grokked, like what you can do with that. But as you saw in some of the demos, being able to have C# and C++ code behind your HTML and JavaScript, that's super powerful. And as you saw in the keynote on day one, being able to actually say, hey, you know what? What if my JavaScript could actually use the GPU, use DirectX, reach in and actually do something super fast and return it quickly? Well, guess what? You can do that in your standard web applications on this platform. And this last point, we're not going to dig deeply into this. If you were here in the session right before this, you probably heard John Hazen, one of our colleagues, talk about kind of how we think about trusted and untrusted code. And really the thing that we want you to take away is that we've tried to think through and make the things that get kind of challenging when you have remote JavaScript actually being downloaded and executed. We've tried to make you feel confident that we've provided us a way for you to handle those situations by default in the platform. Now, again, I've been talking a lot, and I'm sure that the way that you actually want to see this is with some real code. So, Ray?
Be gone.
Yeah, sorry.
Move.
Let me stand back.
No, sit there.
Okay, I'm going to stand here. I'm done. I'm done. Code.
Anyways, yeah, he talks a lot, man. God, killing me. So, I think the best way to kind of show what you can do with this is actually take an existing app and actually port it over to a Metro-style app. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the source code from the Flickr postcard website, and we're going to bring that in. We're going to import it into Visual Studio, and we're going to start working on transforming that into a really cool app. What do you think, Jerome?
That'd be great.
All right, cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spark up Visual Studio, and that's, of course, our trusty IDE. Now, I've worked on a variety of platforms. I've worked on Mac, Linux, and, of course, I've worked on Windows, and I've used a ton of different IDEs. I am really, really proud of Visual Studio 11. I'm kind of new to it, and I'm just enjoying the fact that, hey, in Visual Studio 10, we added a ton of HTML5 and CSS3 features into it, and now in Visual Studio 11, there's a ton of JavaScript features. And as a JavaScript programmer, this makes me extremely excited. So I think we're going to kick off this with the normal way that most developers use this is what?
New project.
All right. So we're going to go New Project. We're going to select a blank application. And we're going to go Postcards. That's the name of our application. God, my typing is horrendous.
Yeah, and this keyboard's a little painful.
Yeah, it's just big thumby fingers. So anyways, we'll kick it up, and while it's bringing up the solution, the other thing I want to do is I actually want to take the existing source code. Here's the source code for the website, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to drop it right into my solution right here. So it's going to say...
Actually, I didn't know you could do that, right?
Yeah, that's a new feature. So you can actually take your source code and just drop it in, and it actually just kind of works, which is great. I love this. So, well, we need to overwrite some of the items in here, so I'm going to say yes. And of course, because we have default.html and default.js open, we need to kind of refresh this. So the first thing I want you guys to see is that, look, this is JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. What do we see here? We see doc-type HTML. If we go down, you see the link element. You see the script tag. If we keep going, look, we got div elements, guys. Div elements for layout control. And if we keep going down, well, we have form elements. Look, we have, remember those form controls that we had on the website, the Flickr website? And it said, like, change the thumbnail size from small, medium, large. We also said messy layout. Well, they're here. We've brought them over. This is standard HTML. This is really cool. And again, it's leveraging the skills that you guys use all the time. Now, the next thing I need to do is I'm going to insert the Windows library for JavaScript. Now, if you've used any type of JavaScript library in your work, you guys are familiar with the fact that they abstract a lot of the complexities for doing JavaScript development. Who's used jQuery in the crowd? Who loves jQuery?
Awesome, awesome.
All right, if you love jQuery, I love you personally because I'm part of the jQuery team, and I'm going to give you guys all a hug, I promise. All right, and if you don't want a hug, just say, hey, no, Ray, okay? Anyway, so, but it abstracts the complexity. It's really easy, and it gives you a nice terse API to work with. And that's what we've done with Win.js. We've given you a lot of built-in functionality to make building apps really, really easy. It provides things like default themes and styling. You get session state management built in. So this is really cool. So I'm going to include this. And I'm not going to talk a lot about Win.js, but I urge you to follow up with some other sessions. If you haven't seen them, make sure you look at them on the recordings that are going to be posted up on the website.
Yeah.
Okay? So let me go ahead and add this in. And if we look, boom, it's a simple script tag that's pulling in JavaScript libraries. Straightforward stuff. Nothing magical. You guys have done this. So now if I run this, all right, it's going to build my solution. It's going to come up. We'll see the hourglass. And there we go. Woo! Yeah! Yeah, I got a Metro-style app. Yeah! Woo!
Ray, calm down. Whoa, okay, you're about to kick me.
What?
Calm down, Ray. This is not a Metro-style application. Jensen's not going to be very happy with this.
But look, it's a Metro-style app. It works. Wait, let me take my mouse. It's working.
Right, but what about touch? What about those controls that you showed people, right? If you drag that up, they're just going to disappear.
Whoa! Put Visual Studio back on. All right. You're kind of right, and it does disappear when...
Exactly. We have to do better than that.
Yeah, we kind of have to do better than that. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Back to the drawing board. Well, the cool thing is that we did see that we could take an existing source code base, like this IE Flickr app, and we can bring it over into Visual Studio, rebuild it, and actually start off with a baseline Metro-style app. It's not 100%. We still got some work to do to kind of clean it up and get touch enabled and things like that.
Exactly.
But it's a start. And I wanted to show you, hey, we can do this. We could take our existing code assets and bring them over. And that's really important. That's powerful stuff. So, Jerome, there's a couple other things we have to consider. Look and feel. Why don't you run them through some of the look and feel aspects that are really important to Metro-style applications?
Awesome. Thanks, Ray, and I'd love to. So let's talk about what it means to adopt the look and feel of a Metro-style application with HTML5. So one thing that you probably immediately think about is style. And we understand that your branding is super important. It is not our goal to have every single app on this platform look the same. We want you to actually have the chance to have your personality, your branding, really showcased in the app. That's what we mean when we say that Windows is getting out of the way and letting you own all the pixels on the screen. And we could have taken that Flickr app and actually replaced the photos that you saw listed with a WinJS list view. And there's actually some advantages to that, right? That list view would automatically handle portrait and landscape. It would handle DPIs. It would handle touch for us automatically. And we could actually use CSS to richly style that list view so that it almost looks like what we actually had in our app. But at the same time, you should think about what your value prop is. If you're magic, if what makes your app magical is the way that you display photos, then why don't you just leave that code in there? And that's great too. We want you to think about what is the essence of your app. What is the personality of your app? Use the assets that you'd like, and then take advantage of the controls that we provide when they make sense. And if you don't use our controls, we've tried to make it easy for you to do things like implement touch and handle zooming so that your controls are actually great as well. So another piece that you heard Ray talk about is touch. And this is a touch-first platform. We have doubled down our investment on the touch platform and having great touch experiences. And here you see a couple of examples of the touch interactions that you've heard about in other sessions. We're not going to dive deeply into these, but the point is you should think about which of these makes sense in your application and provide a great experience for users. Now, one thing that we've also done is that we've provided an abstraction. So we've provided this thing called MS Pointer. And with MS Pointer, we've actually done the hard work to actually abstract out touch, abstract out mouse, extract out pen, so that they all behave with the same event. That means when you go in and you're looking at your application that you actually have one event that you can listen for that the DOM will throw that basically will do touch, pen, and also mouse with the mouse cursor. Now, you see 3 events listed here. Hopefully, these kind of make sense. MS Pointer down, put my finger down. Up is when my finger comes up. And move is as I'm actually moving elements across the screen. Well, and this would work for...
I think the key point is that we're abstracting, I just want to reinforce this. We're abstracting touch, mouse, and pen.
Yes.
On this. So that's really critical. It's not just saying, hey, this is just touch stuff.
Exactly. You don't have to write a lot of JavaScript that basically does the exact same logic for the 20 different types of devices that it may actually throw that event. So again, we've tried to make this easy. Now, another piece of this is that users will expect that your app is beautiful and really showcases the content of your application. And with that, you have to think about things like your controls. And as Ray showed you, when we scroll up, those controls that were in our website actually disappear. And that's not going to be a great experience. And we have something that fixes that. It's the app bar. And what's great about the app bar is that it's always available in the context of what the user is doing. At any point, I can just edge swipe from the bottom, and I have the controls that are making sense for the user and in the context of what they're doing right now in your app. So take advantage of those controls because, again, users will expect them in your application, and it just makes the entire experience great on Windows 8. But, again, let's actually see what that looks like to code. That's a lot of complicated things. You think we can add this into our app?
Oh, definitely. So, the one thing that we talked about was the fact that there was a look and feel and also a personality. And personality is such a great word. I think, Jerome, you're a personality. I think everybody's realized by now Ray is a bit of a personality. And I totally get it. And so I look out in the audience and I'm looking at this gentleman over here with this awesome plaid shirt. I love his shirt, and that's part of his personality. And I see my friend Doris over there. And Doris has this beautiful, really pretty blouse. And that's just part of her personality. I know she woke up in the morning and she looked at herself in the mirror. She went like this. Damn, I look good. I know. And I know because I do this every morning. That's just me. So,
I bet you do, Ray.
And that's just part of your personality. You add things to yourself that you feel are gonna make you really, really awesome, and it's gonna make you feel good, and that people are gonna appreciate. And that's the same thing with Metro-style apps. You want to add things that are gonna really add value to your app so they shine and users want to use your stuff. Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is actually remove some of the things that we had before, some of those form controls that really weren't app-like, And so I'm not here to show you code or show you how to remove code. I think everybody's pretty familiar with IDEs and how to strip out form elements and get rid of DOM references. I don't need to do that. So what I've done is I've baked up a new default.html file, and the only thing it does is it takes out the form elements and any JavaScript references to DOM elements. It's straightforward. I don't need to do some of that basic stuff for you guys. So I'll do this, and then I'm going to refresh. And when I run this now, let's see what happens. Give this a shot. It's going to boot up. Here's the hourglass, and we have a very basic-looking Metro-style app.
Nice.
We've taken out the form controls at the top, and like I mentioned, it's just straightforward. I've just taken out the form elements. That's all I've done. But you know, you have to go past that. I mean, it's kind of bland right now, and it's not taking. It really doesn't take up the full screen.
No.
So let's add some styling to this. So go back into Visual Studio, and I'm going to go down here. And the cool thing is that WinJS provides you. Remember what I mentioned with some default styling. So if I go here and I type in my code snippet, and I bring it up, just look, it's a standard link element, and it's referencing a WinJS style sheet. That style sheet provides you with some very basic theming, and then we have another style sheet called Demo App, which is an application-specific CSS style sheet. If I run the application now, bring that up, now that looks much better.
Wow, it's already starting to look better.
That's looking much better. We got the full screen real estate. It's actually looking very Metro style, but we're still missing some stuff.
We are.
All right? We're missing like the form elements. We really want to get those form elements back in. They're the config options that control some of the cool functionality inside this app. So we still have the CSS3 2D transforms. They're working great. That's perfect. Still not touch enabled. Nope.
Yep.
So
Need
we still
touch.
got some, yeah, we need touch. We got some work to do. So let's go back in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down a little bit. And right here, I want to add some more code. This is going to be the divs that are going to be the layout for your app bar. So if I look at this, all right, and this is, again, one of the reasons that we use code snippets and demos, because if I had to sit here and type, you guys would be bored to death, all right? The cool thing is that this is all HTML. We look at it, they're div tags. We have label tags. Remember those form elements that we had that controlled the sizing, the background, the messy look. They're all here. We have input tags, and this is a type radio, obviously, for input size small, medium, large. We could say, do we want to show the tags? Do we want to show the background? Do we want messy layout? Standard checkboxes. So again, standard HTML. Very cool so far. Now, the next thing we need to do is kind of wire up some event handlers so that the app bar actually functions as expected. So let's head on over to default.js. And in default.js, I'm going to go here, and let me put in this code. And let's talk about this. So if you've ever wired up an event handler, you go ahead and you create some kind of method, a callback method or whatever it is, and let's say it's a change event. Well, when that change event occurs, you're going to call that method, and that method is going to do something. Well, that's what this does. This is a couple methods that's called onChangeSize, onChangeTags, onChangeBackground. And what's going to happen is that when a user clicks on those checkboxes or decides that they want to change the radio button option from small, medium, large, these callbacks will fire off. So in this case, we have a JavaScript object, a plain Jane JavaScript object called DemoState. It's not integrated into WinJS. It's not part of WinRT. This is just a normal JavaScript object. And we're using this to maintain persistent information while we're actually working with the application. So remember DemoState. I want you to keep it in the back of your mind. If you look at it, we're saying DemoState.thumbnailSize. And we're grabbing the actual value from the input element, and we're storing it in there for later use. Remember to keep that in mind, OK? The next thing we need to do is we need to actually go ahead and initialize this app bar. So let me go here, and I'll hit the Enter key. And this keyboard is horrible.
Yeah.
It's killing me. And I'll put this in here. And if you've done JavaScript, you know what add event listener does. This is where you bind your events. We're saying that when a change happens on the input element, go ahead and fire a specific callback. You remember those callbacks we just wrote? OnChangeSize, OnChangeTags? Well, that's where we're calling them in here. We're saying if the user changes something, call this specific method. Straightforward?
Yeah.
Cool. The next thing we need to do is go into Demo.js and actually initialize some stuff. So let me go in here. Let me find my placeholder, and I'll go here, and photo 20. And in here, what we're doing is we're grabbing the value of the actual element, and we're just initializing some stuff. We're just grabbing a reference. We're going to initialize this to start off with. So when our application starts off, we have some default values to kind of work with. That's all it is. Now, if I run this, let's see what happens. Cranks up. All right, so far so good. I haven't lost any of my functionality. That's great. I love that. And when I bring up the app bar, boom, my configuration options are there.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
All right. Again, there was no magic to it. This was JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Straightforward, guys. The stuff that you guys use every single day. All right. If I check here, boom, still works.
All the events are still hooked up.
Show tag still works. I can get rid of the background. Let's see. Still works.
Nice.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
So far, so good. But if I do here, wait, We're missing one thing.
It's touch first. We still need touch.
We still need touch. So let's go back to our code, and let me go here. And so what we're going to do is, let me find my placeholder. Ooh. And, you know, Jerome talked to you about the MS Pointer events. And that's great because, again, just to reinforce it, it abstracts the complexities of building for touch, mouse, and pen. It's all handled for you. Now, this is very normal code that you'd see on a website. I mean, you see on mouse over, on mouse out, on key, on key down. This is stuff that is very applicable to a website, but for a touch-enabled screen, it's not going to really work for us. So we're going to get rid of this code. Get rid of that. And then, from there, I need to go ahead and wire up some more stuff. So let's go over here. Oops, sorry. And I want to wire up some touch events. So we look at the code here, again, using add event listener, and we're wiring up those touch events that Jerome talked about. This is the same exact code you saw on the slide. All right? And what's happening is that when the user hovers over it, what's going to happen is over photo touch, that method is going to get fired off. And the same when the user clicks on it and says, hey, here's down, well, down photo touch is going to get clicked off. These are just JavaScript methods. Who's done an add event listener before? All right, who's used something like jQuery's bind method? All right, so you guys are used to binding events. This is all we're doing. We're binding events here. The next thing we need to do is actually, we need to actually create these handlers. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go here, and if we look at that, basically, these are the methods that we outline in our, when we bound our events.
Exactly.
All right? Nothing magical about these. These are actually the same exact methods that are on the Flickr website. The only reason that we're re-including them is because the shape of the argument structure changed a little bit with the MS Pointer argument event, the argument object. So we had to, instead of having 2 arguments, we only have 1 now. So we just had to change this. Other than that, 99% of the code is exactly the same. All right? So now if I run this, and so far, mousing is still working. That looks awesome. Good. The let's see, the app bar still functions correctly. Great. Now, if I go here, let's see.
Oh,
beautiful. Yeah.
And now you have touch.
Oh, creepy.
Okay. Yeah, that is too creepy. I think people are creeped out.
All right, this is awesome. Touch is working. So far, we're looking good, right? All right, great. This is great. So, the cool thing is that with very little effort, we've managed to bring over this Flickr app, this Flickr site, turn it into a Metro-style app. We've themed it really nicely.
Yes.
We've added touch, and we've added the app bar. And so we're really chugging along. We're doing pretty good. But there's still kind of like a flow that needs to be considered when you're building a Metro-style app. And so I'm going to pass this back to Jerome. He's going to talk to you about that flow.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. And Ray's right. Even though our app is starting to look good, there's some actual plumbing in the operating system that we need to think about. Plus, there's a different style of navigation that we should think about as well. So let's talk about actually what it means to follow the app model. So one thing is, navigation is different in an app versus a website. And if you think about it, we know that, right? A website has a hyperlink, you click it, you hear that little clicky sound, and the whole page refreshes and goes somewhere else. And that's what users expect on the web. They do not expect that in an application. And even though we have things like Ajax that have made that nicer and have done partial page refreshes in our website so that we don't have to kind of have that kind of abrupt navigation, there's still basically a different navigation and a different way that users will expect to be able to navigate your app. In an app, you expect it to be very fluid, right? It's going and transitioning through the views nicely and easily. You're having that slick animation that Jensen talked about in the keynote between the different views inside of your app. And the great thing is Win.js actually provides a navigation API to make it easy for you to not only switch between your views, but to actually break up your page into logical different HTML files. And those HTML files are actually loaded as fragments into your application.
Well, hold on, fragments. I mean, what you're talking about, it sounds a lot like what I've done with Ajax development, where you're taking small bits of, let's say, HTML code or even text, and you're kind of dynamically bringing it in to the DOM.
Exactly. Okay. You're right, Ray.
All right.
And what's great is things that you are familiar with ASP.NET, ASP.NET MVC, and other frameworks on the server side. Well, you have APIs on the server side for doing a partial page refresh. But now you have this app. So what do? Well, WinJS in JavaScript, locally inside of your app, is giving you an API surface to do the same type of things that you used to actually do on the server. And when you think about that, that makes sense. We want that code to not execute off in the cloud. We want it to be local inside of our package, because that's going to give us the performance and the characteristics that users will expect in this new world. Another huge piece of the story is the lifetime model, and you've seen other talks talk about application lifecycle. And what does this mean? Well, on Windows 8, apps are never quitting, right? They always feel alive. There's no close button in an application to actually quit that app. That means that we have work to do as a platform and work to do as app developers to ensure that we actually are thinking about system resources and understanding that when the system actually needs to kill or terminate your application because of performance on the system, that we should handle that gracefully. And again, you can kind of think of this as a good thing for app developers as well. That means that just like we wanted to give you every pixel on the screen, we want to make sure that when your app runs, you have as much of the processor and as much of the GPU as possible to create a great experience. And that means that there's two things that you have to consider when building your app. One, when the user throws your application to the background, there's a chance that you're going to get a suspend message, and you will get a suspend message, and basically you're going to have 5 seconds before you no longer are running, and you no longer have the ability to execute code. And that means that you shouldn't wait until you get the message to actually start thinking about saving your state. You should be saving your state as you're going, because 5 seconds isn't going to be enough to ensure that you can save everything. And that's really important, and Ray's actually going to show you an easy way to do that. The other thing that we hope that you'll consider is that when you're in the background and you're suspended, there's a high likelihood that you will eventually be terminated. That means your process is completely quit. It's completely gone. And when you come back, when the user is just kind of casually navigating through the different apps on their system, they're not going to understand the fact that there's this life cycle that caused your app to quit, meaning that they're going to expect that when you actually come back and reactivate, that you actually have left them off exactly where they left off. That means that you actually have to do a little bit of JavaScript to take the things that you've saved and actually load them back up when you actually become reactivated so that you're right where the user left off. And again, users are going to expect that. And it would be weird if they go and they flip through their applications, they get back to your app, and nothing's there. Or there's the things that they were working on are completely lost. So Ray, how about we actually try to add like saving our state and activation to this application?
That's great. That's a great thing to really discuss. So there's a lot of web developers in here. How many of you have tried, and sometimes in vain and frustration, to have state management, successful state management within your website? Isn't it a pain?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tough. I mean, cookies are okay, but they really aren't I guess the ideal solution. So the cool thing is that with the Windows 8 platform, we have the tools and mechanisms to help you do this very easily. So let me show you some code so you can actually see how it works. Here, I'll put it in here. So the cool thing is that the WinJS library provides you with an event called onCheckpoint. Think of it as like a super duper timer that periodically fires off, and it's actually really reliable. And it gives you that timer that you can use to actually start saving your information on a regular basis. As Jerome said, it's important for you guys to do some work so that if the user's app gets terminated, when that app reactivates, that user's session is still preserved. So this is where this comes in. So in this case, onCheckpoint's going to fire off. Now, mind you, if you guys want to write your own timer stuff, man, knock yourself out. I personally prefer to have this library abstracted for me because it's reliable, it's easy, and it just does it. So in this case, when onCheckpoint fires off, it's going to call a method called state_save. This is just a standard JavaScript method that I wrote, and it's going to fire it off, and it's going to use the WinRT application data API to save my information. It's going to persist my app state. It's a really cool API that you guys should look into and leverage. So in this case, we're taking all that information that the user has done, like clicking on, hey, I got a large thumbnail or a messy background, and we're going to save that in the WinRT application data API. Well, when the application terminates and it's reactivated, we kind of have to load that information back up. And that's where state load comes in. State load will read that information back in from the WinRT application data API. And then remember that JavaScript object I was telling you about, demo state? Well, we load it up with all this information so that later on, when the application is initialized again, we fill in all the blanks for the input elements. Beautiful. So we have this. This is great, but we do need to go ahead and put in that init call. So let's go here. And let me see, make sure, Control F. And I'll go here, and there we go.
Ray.
What?
Did you really need a code snippet for one line of code?
You know my typing. Why are you calling me out on that, man?
I'm sorry. My bad.
Stinks.
I forgot.
Jeez.
The keyboard's bad.
All right. So this is pretty much it. In the init method, what we're doing is we're calling state load. So that way, our checkboxes get loaded up with the last settings that were there.
Exactly.
And we're actually restoring the last state that the application was in. Pretty cool stuff. But if I just ran this right now, you guys would not see anything. And this is all behind the scenes. And so, in order for me to show it to you, the cool thing is that the guys in the Visual Studio team provided some really cool functionality to simulate a suspend. And I'll tell you why it's important. When Visual Studio runs your application, it kind of bypasses that whole process lifetime management capability, and it does not terminate or suspend your app. Yeah. Think about it. If you were debugging your app, and you're like, all right, I'm doing my app, blah, 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 and then Windows 8 in the background said, oh, guess what? You haven't used it in a while. Done. You'd kind of be pretty ticked off, right?
Yeah, debugging wouldn't work too well.
No, it wouldn't work too well. So the cool thing is, with Visual Studio, you can simulate a suspend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go to State Save, and I'm going to set up a breakpoint. There's my breakpoint. Pretty typical stuff. I'll run the app, let it come up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, and I want to go ahead and change all the thumbnails to large. All right? Looking good so far. It's working as expected. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to simulate a suspend action.
Yeah.
So let's check this out. I'll go up to my debug menu option, and down here you see another option called trigger suspend. When I click on this, my breakpoint should actually fire it off. Let's see. Boom.
Nice.
This is cool because now you can figure out, hey, is my suspend actually working? Am I saving the right information? Am I persisting the right information? Really important stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this run now so that it actually stores my information in the WinRT application data API. So let me let it run. Now, my current state should be saved. If I terminate my application right now and reactivate it, I should come back with large thumbnails.
Yep.
All right, so let me go back into Visual Studio, and I'm going to kill this completely.
All right,
start debugging.
And I'm going to cross my fingers here, pay homage to the demo gods.
I'm going to do my little voodoo dance. All right, little voodoo dance. All right, we're good. And once I restart it, we should get an app with large thumbnails. Let's see what happens. Coming up. Bam.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay,
That's
great.
Beautiful.
So the cool thing is, very easy mechanism for you guys to manage app state.
Yes.
Very easy. Okay. This is being a web developer. This is when I saw this, I was like, oh man, I wish I had this every single day. This is awesome. All right. So let's go back here. So we're really chugging along great. This is looking really good. We've talked to you about taking your code over, using your existing web skills. We've talked about look and feel. Look and feel is looking pretty good, right?
It's actually looking really good.
Everybody looking good, everybody? What do you think?
Yeah.
All right,
cool.
Awesome. And then, we've talked to you about managing app state, which is incredibly important. And guys, remember, it's a little bit of work, but it's valuable for your users. Your users are going to expect that when that app comes up, they're going to be in the same spot. And if it doesn't, they're not going to use your app. They're going to be pretty ticked off. So come on, guys. Make sure, it's a little bit of work, but it's definitely worth it. But we still got a little bit more work to do. We got to really make the app shine. We got the personality aspect of it. That's great. Your app is unique, but let's really take it to the next level and talk about maybe discoverability. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thanks, Ray. So let's talk about lighting up your app on Windows. And again, as a Windows guy maybe, this is actually my favorite part to talk about. But hopefully what you've seen is contracts are cool. They're powerful. They really are kind of what we've always wanted, right? Instead of you having to actually go and implement every single service and, hey, maybe they want SkyDrive, hey, maybe they want to upload here. Guess what? All you have to do is implement these contracts and applications can talk to each other. The user's favorite app can be the app that actually integrates inside of your app to talk to that service. That gives you less headaches to worry about. You don't have to worry about a changing surface of an API there. And that just lets users feel empowered. And guess what? Just like Ray was saying, that's opportunity for you. That means if users love your app, they're not only using your app all the time, they're using it inside other applications. They're not leaving your experience to basically access your cool application. And where is this most prominent? Well, think about search. the search contract is so cool. When I'm actually in my shell, navigating and searching and doing something else across my computer, every time I want to search, I can do an edge swipe, and I see your great app. Your app is in my list. Your app is where I go to find those search results. And that's a huge opportunity for all of us as developers. And we think that's really a great opportunity that really differentiates things that you could do classically on the web today. And again, there's kind of a common pattern that you'll see. As you implement a contract, there's a piece of XML that we need to put in our package manifest, and there's a couple of lines of JavaScript that we're going to have to write to basically describe to the OS what's our data, what's a search result, what are the things that we want to have happen when users are coming into this contract. Because remember, when your app is loaded, it's your app executing that search result. So Ray, actually, it'd be really great to add search into our Flickr app just to kind of finish it off.
And you mentioned opportunity, and that's such a great word. Opportunity for discoverability. Opportunity for value. Guys, this is your opportunity to make your apps really, really shine and adding the things that users are going to want to use. How many of you guys, just show a hand, how many of you guys struggle with SEO every single day in some fashion? Not some people, all right, and because you're trying to have your site discoverable. Well, what if your app was just like deeply integrated into the platform and easily discoverable? That's huge. That's value and that's power. That's power. So let me show you how you're going to do this. Now, Jerome says it's easy. Typical. All right? This is the hardest part of the whole entire demo. I'm going to show you how hard it is, okay? I'm going to bring up my...
You got to flip over...
oh, that's right. Let me flip over, guys.
Sorry. They can't see all the great stuff you're doing.
I'm not showing you the great stuff. So I'm bringing up my application manifest. So I double-clicked here, okay? Let's simulate that. All right? And we have this nice UI, which is pretty cool.
Beautiful
design. Kudos to the Visual Studio team. Love this. All right? I'm going to go to declarations. Now, guys, this is I'm pained by having to do this. This is so insanely hard. It just...
All right, Ray. I think you can do it. I believe in you.
God, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to click on search. I don't know if I can do it.
You can do it. You can do
sure?
it. Yeah. Go for it, man.
I'm going to click add. Done. That's it. We've just made our app discoverable. We just added a search contract to our app. We've told Windows 8, hey, our app is discoverable. When somebody brings it up in search, it's going to show up. That's it. And this, how long does this take? 30 seconds?
Yeah, just a few seconds.
30 seconds to add
And you can still get to the XML if you want.
Yeah, if you want to go XML, knock yourself out, man. I'm not, no. I mean, kudos to the Visual Studio team. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You rock, okay? This is really simple, but we still need a little bit of JavaScript code to do some stuff. So
Absolutely.
Let's head on over to default.js, and in here I'm just going to add another snippet. And again, this is incredibly hard, guys, okay? Bam, 3 lines of code. We look at the code as straightforward. What we're doing is we have these search contracts, and we need to figure out what type of search contract we're dealing with, or I'm sorry, what type of contract we're dealing with, period. And in this case, what we're saying is, hey, if the kind of contract we're dealing with is a search contract, then let's grab the query text and pass that to our method called doSearch. 3 lines of code, and we've wired up our application to be incredibly integrated and discoverable in the Windows 8 platform.
That's pretty cool.
Is that cool? No?
No, they're still asleep.
All right, God,
okay,
there we
go. Cool.
All right. Jeez. All right, so now let's actually run this, and let's make sure it's going to work correctly.
Yep.
All right, because one thing is actually putting the code, and the other thing is actually making sure it runs.
Yeah.
So, all right, so what I always like to do is I like to make sure that my app functions as expected. So, yeah, mouse still works. Touch is working. Awesome. Let's make sure the app bar is still there. Now, we added a search contract. Let's see if search works. So if I go here, and here's the search charm. I'll bring that up. Boom. My app is there. You see it highlighted? Here it is right here. Postcards. Now it's integrated right into the platform. All right, a user does a search. They can't find it in another app. Your app has the option of being useful now. That's awesome. I love that. So I'll go here. And yeah, I'm getting kind of pumped up because this is really cool. All right, and I'll search for beach, for example. Hit the enter key. And bam, my images come up. So, guys, we've just added tremendous value to our app. This is cool. I can't say enough about this. That's it. I'm done. So, anyway.
Actually, we are done, aren't we?
We're close. We're close. So, we've gone through a pretty nice journey here.
Absolutely.
We started off with a base website. We've taken that code. We've made some small tweaks to it, and we've turned it into a Metro-style app. Something that it could be useful right now. I mean, this could be deployed, and people could be going nuts over this. And I could be making $1 million.
You could.
Woo! All right, love it. All right, cool. So, but, there's still a little bit more information. I'm going to pass this back to Jerome to kind of finish off the journey for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. And again, hopefully what you're taking away from this is that you can take the assets that you already have today, drag them into Visual Studio. There is work. And again, as Ray said, we're not trying to cloud the fact that there's different concepts and new things here. But just being able to use your skills and assets that you have that make sense in this new world to build a great app is super powerful. And as a web developer, I'm super excited to have this, and hopefully you are as well. So going into kind of a summary, hopefully what you're taking away is that it's not enough just to take an iframe, jam it into a full screen view, and say we're done. Right? We want more than that. It should be more than that. And I'm not trying to rag on iframes. Iframes are super powerful. They are a great way to pop up maybe a checkout experience inside your app. But there's work that we want you to do because we think users are going to expect that from your app. And if you take advantage of that work, or take advantage of that expectation, if you do that work, we think people are going to be delighted and they're going to be buying your app. They're going to be looking for your app. They're going to be using your app. And we think that's really important. So let's talk again about kind of a recap of where we've been. We've gone from taking the skills that you were familiar with, taking your familiarity with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and making you immediately powerful with all those tools to build great applications. We talked about actually keeping the essence of your personality. And again, this is really important to us. Our controls are designed so that you can style them. But if they don't make sense, hopefully you'll see that this web platform is a web platform, meaning that you can do all the things that you've done in the browser right here when building your apps. We do want you to think about touch. We think users are going to come to love touch. Hopefully you all love your developer preview tablets and you're touching it all the time. We actually saw a tweet where someone was saying, man, I'm touching my desktop now because I expect it. And we think that's really going to take off. So think about things like the app bar, like Ray showed you, when you're scrolling up and you lose your controls. There's features that are available there to help you kind of basically adopt this new type of design. Think about the app model. Think about the navigation model inside your app and rebuild it for what makes sense for the app that you're trying to create. And lastly, with contracts, we really think that we've given you an opportunity to let your app shine. And what I love about the keynote, when Jensen talked about our philosophy for Windows, it really is something to say that we believe that we should get out of the way so that your app can take the center stage, so that the hard work that you do, the dollars that you invest building these apps, are the thing that users sees and the things that users are immersed in. That's really important to us as a platform. So there's actually some related sessions. If you stayed in the room from John Hazen's session on the whole confidence model, that's a great talk. You should definitely watch that again on replay if you missed it. Mateus, one of our colleagues, is actually doing a great talk later today on high-performance metro-style apps. Definitely go there to learn more. Just every time I watch that talk, I'm just blown away, and I feel like I've learned something new and want to go back to the office and start coding. And lastly, we thought about all the other sessions that our colleagues are doing here, and we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we actually just kind of show a power tip here and actually, instead of listing a whole bunch of sessions? So if you haven't discovered this, I can go into the Build app, and what's great here is if I just open up the app bar, and actually, if you haven't heard it, this is all HTML5, JavaScript, CSS. This is a pure web app at the centerpiece of our conference. So I can actually hit the Sessions button. I can click Group By, change it to Tag, and actually I can semantic zoom that bad boy out, just like that. Go over to HTML5 and JavaScript, give it a touch, and bam, right there are all the sessions that you probably want to go to. And there's a whole lot more that you can learn as well. So definitely do that, and if you haven't done that on your app, do it. It's fun. So thank you so much. We're going to basically go down to the expo floor, right, Ray?
Yep.
And actually be available for you to ask questions. And we just really appreciate your time today and really hope that what you've taken away from this is that there's just an amazing opportunity to use the skills that you have in web development to go and create great experiences. So thank you so much. Woo. And thank you, Ray, for all the great coding.
Did you like my dancing?
I like the dancing.
Who liked my dancing?
I got a little scared there that I was going to get kicked off the stage, but I appreciate it. It was really nice.
Cool.
All right, thank you, everyone, and have a great build.